you will have to read it through a QVW file and load it. It is just like a table, how in a SQL how you have a table of data. It's a QVD is a file to store data in a Qlikview optimized format. Now if your QVW is reading data from the data table around 1 hour, it takes 1 hour to read data. From a QVD it will just take around 5 minutes. So it optimizes the data storage and extraction to a QVW file. There is another file format called QVX. Let me put this simple. QVD is store data and Qlikview optimized format. So there is a new format called QVX. This is also a storage file. Basically it stores data, but it is accessible by other applications, for example Informatica. So whatever data ETL Informatica does, it can convert it to a QVX and it can be created. And the QVD is always created by QVW using the scripts. Now how do we do it? I'll just show you an example of that in my demo. I hope I'm clear.
Yes.
Yeah, did this answer the question?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Basically, the QVW is the virtual warehouse. If you are comparing from the other BI products, this is the best part of Qlikview. QVW is considered as your virtual warehouse or the data storage, where you can have very large, very huge, huge data you can store in these files.
Data is stored in QVD, not in QVW, is it?
Yeah, it is stored in QVD. Yeah, but there are many versions you can, but eventually data comes into QVW from QVD.
No, okay. So basically what happens is, this is database. From database you extract data, and whatever dashboard you have to create is a QVW file. So when you extract data from database to QVW, it loads data into this QVW file, and this also stores the data as data.
Yeah.
Now you don't want to every time go from go to the database to fetch data. So you create an intermediate file which extracts data and stores it in an optimized format. So it's nothing but both definitely store data in them, but this is just the database. This also has a visualization capability. And this is what users access.
QVW.
QVW, right.
So QVW, when a client access, all the data gets initially loaded onto the local system, or only on demand it will?
It won't get loaded on the local system. When you browse a website, it doesn't get loaded to your laptop, right? It's a internet-based access.
Right.
So you browse, right? So it's just the same logic. The data resides on the server RAM. So the presentation I showed it to you. Right. So it resides on this Qlikview server component, and whenever a user accesses through the browser, it just fetches and displays the data.
Okay. What is the hardware requirement?
See, yeah, that's a good question. What happens is, whatever data you have, as this is an in-memory analytics tool, and all the data is stored in the memory, so the hardware requirements is directly proportional to your database, and also the number of users that would be accessing the data. So based on that, you decide your hardware capability. So you have around 10 GB of data, so you decide for 10 GB of data to be in memory, how much RAM do I need? So there is a different calculation for that. You can't get exact values basically, but there is a approximate calculation that Qlikview has for it.
So does it mean that it requires more than resources than traditional BIs?
Not necessarily. It is like, see, it's only the RAM that is really required. So I don't think so it is required more than the traditional BIs.
No, it doesn't actually. And you can start with very basic. You can start with very basic RAM, depending on usage.
If your database is less, you need very less RAM. If your database is more, you need more RAMs. The CPUs remain the same, so you just add RAMs. Now you have more processing or analytics that is involved in the layer, so you add more cores to process the same data. It is a scalable environment. It is nothing specific that you have to buy so much. You can start with a 4 GB RAM memory. So in fact, you can load the server on your laptop and host a small application. But again, as the users will grow, it will not support it. So you might have to increase your RAM. Then as again, if the database grows, you'll have to increase it to a server capability. So there's no minimum requirements, but to begin with, I think 4 GB is the basic minimum as of now. And a multi-core processor. So just to begin, this is the QEW file. So whatever development you do, you open a new QEW file. To reload a file, you'll have to connect to the database and extract data. To extract data, QEW has always to be saved. So the best practice is whatever file you are creating, please save it first. So I say that first, get this. This is the layout where you do all the graphical presentation layer. If you want to go to the script, there is something called a script editor over here on top. You go into the script editor. This is where you write all your queries, all your scripting to connect more data and all. Now when you are extracting tables or different tables from a database, you don't have to manually connect them. Based on the names and the primary keys, Qlikview automatically makes connections to them, provided the names are same. Now when you have two tables with two fields which have same names, it will create a synthetic key. It's nothing but a Qlikview way of handling composite keys. It doesn't harm your work, but it is not a best practice, or it is not advisable, because many-to-many relationships are not very well defined in a database concept. So it is always advisable to have one-to-one relationship. One-to-one in the sense one field, one primary key. So you have a main tab. This is a standard tab. This is nothing but setting variables of how your date format should be, how your month names, how your date names. You can edit them, but this is a global standard, so we let it be there. You can write your script over here. The basic scripting is nothing but SQL. This is like a modified SQL for Qlikview. All the SQL functions remain the same except for a few keywords and few key functions and variables over here. We'll get to know that in our training sessions. You have a data functions variable settings. Data is basically connecting to database. You have the database option, ODBC and whatever. If you have a SAP connector, it will show up over here. Then you can connect to any table files, basically Excel or Access or QVDs. Qlikview files will come to this. Then web files if you want to connect to any web file or field data. Relative paths is basically when you save this Qlikview in a path, in a folder, so and you refer to any other file in your folder, any other table file, Excel file. So it keeps a relative path variable over here, so that whenever you move the file, it goes with the folder. We'll get to learn that. Functions is basically all the functions that are available in Qlikview scripting for scripting. So you can use multiple group by. You have whatever aggregations you want to do. You have variables, whatever variables you create. Right now there are no variables for us. We'll start by extracting one database table. I already have created a ODBC DSN connection on my laptop for a database that is a SQL Express edition database. I mean, everybody knows how to create a DSN, right? I mean, or do I have to show that? No.
No, for me no.
Okay. So basically, if I'll just let you know what. Okay, it's not here. I think I got lost.
You have to go to administrative tools.
Administrative tools, right? Yeah.
ODBC.
So you get these data sources. Yeah, something called as user DSN or a system DSN. Basically, I have created the user DSN for SQL Server. You can add your server, this all server, and you just go ahead, give the name of the server, pick the server table, the server you want to access, and create it. Once this is created, the same is accessible over here. Now you pick the ODBC connection and connect. It will ask for which database. Now mine was a SQL Express. Once the connection is successful, a string is created. So this is basically the connection for this application. Now you want to add tables to extract tables from this database. You can click on select. Hello?
Yes.
Are everybody able to hear me? Yeah. This, okay. So basically use the select option. It will open up the database and show you all the tables available. So now this is the Express edition. This is the database. You can change whatever. If you have another database, you can select. This is the certifications database. Over here you have different tables. All the tables are listed in the database. To begin with, I'll just pick the sales order detail. Just to demonstrate better, I'll go with the sales order detail. And if you see here the statement that is created, SQL select star from certifications, you just click add. Okay. Now this SQL select statement is created. It basically does what? It extracts data, connects to the database table and extracts data. In Qlikview, you'll have to name the tables that you create after you extract data, and the naming is pretty simple. Maybe you can just sales order. You can name, you just type the name and a colon before this SQL select or the load statement, and you're good to go. We'll just test how this looks. You save the file, reload it, and you get that particular table in Excel form. So you have got all the entire data in that particular table. No aggregation, nothing. It's plain Jane table. We have the product ID. Now based on the product ID, I would need the product name, product subcategory, all that. So I'll have to get the dimension table product. Now this becomes my fact. I'll just get one small dimension table. Again, once the string is created, this ODBC connect, you don't have to do it again. You can just again go ahead, select. I go to the product. I have the product ID. I do add. I do OK. Again, I can name this table, or if I don't name, it's just gonna take a generic without name table. So it's better to name it. For now, I'll just save it and reload it. In fact, you can reload it from this option itself. reload. So we got 500 lines on the table. Now if I go look, so I loaded the product table and I got, okay, I think my select statement had only the product ID. Okay, this is the problem. So you give a star, reload. So if you look at this, Qlikview automatically created a link between the product ID and the product ID based on the name. So this becomes the primary key between these two tables. Now similarly, I can get the sales order table with the sales order ID and link it. So that's how we create facts. You do the scripting and data modeling. Maybe in the training we'll be able to cover more. Now the second thing I wanted to demonstrate was how do we create QVDs. Now you load the table, all you'll have to do is store the table name into, again you can give table name QVD. So you load this. Now it says, what this executing script says is it connected to this SQL Express database. For this table, it extracted these many records. So this is how you monitor when it is loading. And this is the started, elapsed, and how much time it did take. So it took around just 2 seconds to load around 100,000 lines. Now you want to see where did it store the QVD. So as I had used the relative path, this is my application QW file that I used to load the data, and in the same path the sales order QVD is loaded. Now this file is not accessible by any other file except from this, except for the Qlikview file. So if you want to see, we'll create a new instance. Qlikview is a multi-instance thing. Application, you can open how many ever instances of Qlikview you want. So create a new file.
But your data is there in QVW also, right?
Yeah, my data is there in QVW also.
Yeah, you don't have to.
For that, yeah, basically I'll come to that 1 second. So second app. So here now I don't have to, once my data is there in the QVD, I don't have to do a connect or a select. All I can do is go to a Qlikview table file, go to that particular folder. Now I have the sales order QVD, open. Now it gives me an option for these, it shows me the preview of the data available in the QVD. I finish. Now if you see for a database connection, it says select SQL select. Basically a select statement, and for QVD or any other file, Qlikview uses load statement. What are the difference we'll learn in the training. Now this typically says directory, just change it to sales order. And that's it. From here you can just save it, reload it. So last time when we loaded the data, okay, if you see these statements over here also, it's loading the data from sales order detail table from the database, and it took around 2 seconds. If you go to the same thing, now we are not able to see the performance difference over here, but it's almost half the time. It took 1 second, and it says QVD optimized format. So it's basically loading the data in the most optimized format, and it is faster. It does not have to connect to the database. Yeah, and for the question that the data is there in Qlikview file, now what we generally do is we create extractors. This is how you create extractors from data and convert it to QVDs. So once you have stored the QVD, you can just use a drop table statement. You can drop this particular table. If you see now, after creating the QVD, the data still resides in this file. Once you use the drop table,